Hi, I'm Steve Latham with the Yale Interdisciplinary Center for Bioethics, and I'm speaking today with Ruth Tallman. And Ruth is in her first summer of being a seminar leader in the Bioethics Summer Institute. So I wanted to start off by having you just tell us a little bit about your own educational background.
Okay, so I got my PhD from the University of Oklahoma, and I specialized in ethics and aesthetics, and then sort of through a series of jobs, moved more towards bioethics and away from aesthetics. So now I'm working mainly in applied ethics.
So your research is in bioethics also,
Yes.
and do you teach a bioethics class?
I sure do, yes.
Is it just a general bioethics class? Or?
So it's open to everyone, but it's primarily biology majors and then philosophy students who take it.
Great.
Yeah.
So there's a funny story about why it is that you end up here, which is that I'm a fan of the Vlog brothers, John and Hank Green, who put together several courses called Crash Course, which are these online classes in biology, chemistry, history, literature, philosophy, some of which you can find on the Khan Academy website. And I was cruising through looking at what they had in philosophy one day and saw one on, was it end-of-life topics? Yep. And I thought, wow, that's really good. And I looked at the credits and there you were. So I Googled you and sort of said, congratulations, this is really great. And I think at the time you'd had 20,000 hits or something.
Yeah, I try not to think about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that's effective philosophizing. It's reaching the masses. So then after that, you got in touch with us, and here you are,
yep.
Teaching the summer program.
That's right.
Great.
Yes.
So what are you teaching here?
Here I'm teaching sex ethics. So we're talking a lot about consent, and which seems, obviously just consent in of itself is important, but there's all sorts of issues that you may not think about, right? It's much more than, right, have you consented to sex, but what happens if you consent but you don't mean it, right? You consent because, out of fear or pressure, right? How are we to understand those types of things? Do we understand consent as relational, right? So I've consented when I've verbally or right, through gestures or something consented, or is consent something that happens internally, right? So that I can give you a signal that might not actually match my internal state, and how philosophically are we to understand that? And there's disagreement about this, right? Some people say no, it's social, right? So we have to look at the cues that we're given because we can't see inside people's heads. And others say no, what's actually important is one's internal state. And if that's the case, then how do we help people to make sure their internal states are matching, or making sure that their outward behavior matches their internal states, so that they're not feeling one thing and saying another.
Right. And of course, this is a big issue on campuses.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Yes.
I have served on this university's sexual misconduct committee, and there are lots of at least purported examples of confusion about consent and
right.
how far it goes. And even on the committee, lots of confusing questions about if you consent reluctantly because you feel that you owe your partner a duty
right.
to have sex with them, because otherwise you wouldn't be being a good partner. Is that
right.
enough consent to
right.
really
or
count?
Can you withdraw
or should
consent?
Your partner notice that and
right.
act on noticing it and so on?
Right, and I think it's particularly difficult on college campuses when we have really inexperienced individuals, right? Both men and women who maybe don't know how to read the cues of their partners as well as we would want them to, and then you mix in a little bit of alcohol
or a lot of alcohol,
right?
Yeah,
things get more difficult.
That's a major
right.
issue. Yeah. So tell me how you've liked your experience in the summer program.
Oh, it's been wonderful. I've loved the experience of being able to be both a teacher and a student, right? So I can attend seminars. I've attended your lovely seminar, and then also teach my own. So I interact with students in really cool ways, right? Both as their teacher and then also learning alongside them, which is something I haven't had exactly that experience before. It's been really cool.
Have you been finding things that you're going to bring home to your class?
Absolutely, so much. Yes.
Any topics that you feel like you might want to write something about?
Well, so I already work in physician-patient relationship ethics, and I've have lots more things to think about now. I hadn't really thought about pediatric ethics much before, and so now I have a lot more ammunition there, and the ways in which the players become more complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have kids, you have parents. I've already been thinking a lot about the problem with thinking of it as just one patient, one doctor, right? When it's usually like patient plus family, and that's how we think of ourselves in relations. But sort of the historical model has been no, it's just the patient. But I've picked up there's lots of work being done right now that's suggesting that we need to be thinking differently, which I was also thinking. So I'm excited about at the Hastings Center some of the stuff there.
Oh, sure.
Really looking at these, right? We need to be thinking in terms of sort of networks of relationships.
And this is a pretty international community.
Yes.
What have you felt about that, both in terms of the internationality of the students, but also of your colleagues who are also teaching other seminars?
It's been really informative to sort of see how sort of different attitudes within medicine and even in universities about how we should be thinking about these things. And also this has been so interesting to me, watching international students and faculty react to our country right now has been very interesting with the gun laws.
Yes,
and
we
things.
were talking about public health and gun control today.
Yes.
And there were some pretty astonished faces in the room about the current state of our
Right. So I think it's
world.
helpful to be able to sort of contextualize where we are in relation to the rest of the world, which we sort of know intellectually, but spending time with people who are coming from different places makes it more real.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for consenting to be interviewed. And thanks for your work in the summer.
Thanks.
All right.